Chapter 2. The summer stretched before them like a golden promise. After the wild rush of graduation and the confession on the Halifax waterfront, Declan and Azalea surrendered to a season that felt endless and personal, a stretch of days that belonged only to them. They learned each other's small languages, the exact hum of the car radio that made Azalea sing along, how Declan's hand felt when he laced his fingers through hers, the way she folded her sketchbook to hide a new drawing when she thought he wasn't looking. They wandered late into boardwalk nights beneath strings of bulbs, sharing beaver tales and laughter. They spent a humid afternoon at Crystal Crescent Beach, where Azalea sketched in the sand while Declan read 2 chapters ahead in a book she loved, then dragged him into the surf anyway. There were quiet rituals too. Saturday mornings spent at the little bakery by the harbor, coffee steaming between them as they plotted impossible travel plans. Evenings on Declan's roof with a blanket spread out under a smattering of stars, fingers pointing and misnaming constellations, until one of them laughed at the impossibility of being wrong together. A spontaneous trip to Lunenburg gave them color and music. Narrow streets of washed paint, small galleries where Azalea lingered with reverent fingers on local canvases. Declan found a tiny silver butterfly charm in a shop window, and bought it with a foolish pride he couldn't explain. He clasped it into her palm and said simply, "For when you forget today." She wore the charm on a new chain, next to the butterfly necklace she never took off, a pair of small stars keeping watch. Small, silly moments threaded the days. A rain-dampened movie night when they ate popcorn out of a bowl too small for 2, an impromptu lighthouse chase along a coastal road, the way Declan would steal the last fry and she would mock curse him until they were both laughing. The trip to Peggy's Cove arrived like a bright punctuation mark in the center of their summer. The lighthouse stood small, defiant, and white against the enormous blue of sea and sky. Wind licked at every exposed edge. The air tasted like cold salt and sunlight. Azalea wore a flowing floral sundress that moved like water, strappy sandals, a simple silver bracelet, and her beloved butterfly necklace. Her pink hair blew loose in the wind, the half-up style escaping into gentle waves. Declan watched her the way you watch waves, fascinated, content, slightly afraid to blink and miss how the light refracted on her cheek. They clambered among the granite like children inventing shorelines, feet numb and happy on the ancient stone. When a rogue wave chased them back a step, Declan caught her and steadied her with 2 hands at her waist, no words necessary. Later, sitting on the warm rock with melting ice cream, Azalea's voice, usually playful, softened in a way that pulled at him. "Promise me something," she said, eyes wide with an earnestness that always made him forget his own lines. "Anything," he answered, because there was no question of refusing. "Promise that we'll remember this, the light, the wind, the ridiculous sunburn you're secretly going to get. Promise we'll carry it when things get hard." He kissed her forehead. "I promise. This summer is ours." They left the cove with salt in their hair and sand in their shoes, driving back in Declan's trusty Toyota Corolla with the windows down, a small defiant sense that however September might arrive, something of that day would stay tucked inside them. September arrived with a quickness that felt almost accidental. The air sharpened. The city traded the languor of heat for the hush of leaves. Azalea packed boxes with the methodical care of someone who loved things dearly and wanted them to be safe during transitions. Declan drove his Toyota Corolla up to the dorms, boxes piled high in the back seat, the scent of their shared summer clinging in the upholstery. The dorm hallway was a different kind of noise. Posters for events, welcome back flyers tacked to bulletin boards, roommates shouting over the din of new playlists and mismatched furniture being wrestled into place. They worked in tandem, rearranging a thrifted lamp, hanging a tapestry, chatting about trivialities, and clinging to the mundane as if it were a rope. When they paused, breathless from the stares and laughter, Azalea leaned against him and said, half breaking the illusion, "I'm going to miss waking up next to you." He held her close. "You'll wake up with me on weekends. We'll carve the rest of the week into moments that matter." The last hug in the doorway was long and ordinary and terrible. Declan watched the dorm window as he pulled away, a small island of light in the navy of the evening. He felt the first real tug of distance, a physical thing that had teeth. Back in the city proper, Declan found a rhythm in quieter places. He began working evenings at Sobeys, stocking shelves, chatting with regular customers, and navigating the predictable hum of a grocery store. The job was steady, scanning barcodes, arranging produce, occasionally helping lost shoppers find their way through aisles. But quiet did not equal empty. Instead, it pressed against him like a soft, persistent question. How do you follow someone you love into different days? One humid Wednesday after a shift, he ran errands at Sobeys, buying milk, eggs, and the kind of junk food that filled empty movie nights. He was balancing 2 cartons of orange juice when a familiar burst of pink threaded through the fluorescent-lit aisles. "Fancy seeing you here," Azalea said, grinning as she appeared with a tote bag slung over her shoulder. "Am I that predictable?" he asked, relief brightening his voice. She peered at his cart with mock disapproval. "Marshmallow cereal, Declan? Really?" "It's classic comfort food," he defended, placing a box into the cart with the solemnity of a man making an important decision. They wandered up and down the aisles like conspirators, elbowing each other over chips and dessert selections. In the frozen aisle, with fluorescent lights humming and a college student rifling through the ice cream selection a few doors down, Azalea looped her arms around his neck and kissed him quick and soft. "You make grocery shopping dramatic," she murmured into his ear. "Only for you," he said, and for a heartbeat, the quiet humiliation of separate worlds fell away. In the parking lot afterwards, she rested her head on his shoulder while the car engine idled, and said simply, "I needed this. I needed to see you." He squeezed her hand. "Then do it more." Small seconds of normalcy like that, a shared sandwich on a bench, a movie night with mismatched snacks, became the glue of their life. Their first real weekend after the campus bustle picked up felt like reclaiming stolen time. Azalea appeared at the campus gate as if launched from a spring. Declan practically caught her in midair. They filled the day with all their rituals, coffee at Glitterbeam Cafe, walking the waterfront until their shoes were scuffed, and returning to Declan's apartment to stack a movie shelf with a ridiculous double feature. But comfort carried a new weight. Azalea's phone buzzed with a steady rhythm that neither of them could ignore. Reminders, student texts, messages from Emily about club logistics. Once, while they were making popcorn together, his hand paused over the kernels when her phone lit up, and the small hurt feeling rose like a bubble. "It'll get easier," she promised, taking his hand and squeezing. "We'll make space for each other." He wanted to believe it with his whole body. The semester was a quiet pressure, a slow machine grinding at the days until they fit into whatever pattern the university preferred. Azalea balanced studio critiques with committee meetings. For the art club, critiques that left her hands smudged with charcoal and her heart thin with exhaustion. Emily, now a senior, practical and kind, sat with her through late nights, propped open textbooks on either side like faithful anchors. "You can't shrink into nothing because you're worried about disappointing him," Emily said, handing over a mug of coffee. The room smelled like warm paper and wet charcoal. Azalea tried to laugh it off, but the laugh came out small. "I just don't want him to feel like I'm choosing school over him." "You're not," Emily said plainly. "You're choosing both. That's exhausting, but it's not the same as choosing one instead of the other. He loves you. He knows." Azalea wanted to hold on to that certainty like a life preserver on rough seas. But certainty was a small thing beside the long list of obligations that stretched between them. On a fraying weeknight, Declan decided to surprise her. He arrived as the art club meeting broke up, and waited by the doorway as teenagers and undergrads shuffled past, some still wearing paint-smeared jeans. When Azalea saw him, the room brightened. She sprinted toward him, the familiar velocity of her hug collapsing everything that had been waiting in the quiet. They left shoulder to shoulder into the evening air, the quad a constellation of groups clustered around small fires of conversation. For a while Declan was simple glad, grateful for the sight of her, for the smell of her hair, for the easy fit of their bodies together. But as they walked beneath the lamplight, he felt the edges of something else, conversation that didn't include him, plans that were made without consulting him. Her friends paused to include her in a tangent he wasn't part of, and he felt with a small foolish sting that campus had begun to cultivate its own rhythm, one that didn't always bend to them. At last they found themselves on a bench near the library, the campus hushed, and the night cool. Azalea's shoulders were tense, the usual bravado gone as she admitted, "I feel like we're drifting." Declan reached for her hand, the touch a pledge. I felt it too, but I'm not giving up on us. We've fought for this, for months, for nights, for small mercies. We're not letting it go now. She leaned into him, the honesty lighting something steadier than either fear or excitement. Promise me we'll try harder. Promise me we'll be honest when things feel off. I promise, he said. We'll keep fighting, even when it's hard. They sat together a while longer, the world reduced to the noise of distant traffic and the soft whisper of leaves. When they walked back to the dorm, Azalea tucked her head against his shoulder. No matter how crazy things get, she murmured, you're my home. Declan kissed her hair. And you're mine. End of chapter 2, 2 paths, 1 love.